Hello, my name is Ingrid Scheel, and I am going to present, as if I were presenting to a class, the cognitive styles exercise that I developed based on the GenderMag methodology. I use this in my freshman courses when I assign project teams to get things started and get the teams talking about how to work together. It can very easily be adapted to other classes. I've used it before without the last few slides on syllabus day to just explain what cognitive styles are and who I am as their teacher. And so let's get started. All right, so hello, I'm Ingrid Scheel. I'm here to talk to you about your project teams and what you're going to be working on this term in groups of 3 or 4. We've all heard that teamwork makes the dream work, but that's actually not the entire saying. It's essential that the team be effective and respectful and have communication protocols in place that allow for open and honest dialogue about the problem solving that needs to happen in order to get a good product or service out. So it turns out that the different perspectives that you can have on a team, if you can increase the diversity of that team, that actually is better outcomes than using just the metric of someone's particular technical ability or expertise in any area. So what does that mean? How can you be a part of a great team? How can you help produce a great team? Well, you are a resource. Your peers are a resource. I'm a resource. I'm here to help you in any way that I can. Throughout the term, we'll be getting a little bit deeper into exactly how to do this, but you want to make sure that if you can, you bring as much of your whole self to the team as you can. And I ask that you bring as much of yourself to the classroom as you can, as you feel comfortable doing. In order to help facilitate this, I want to talk about the different styles that people have when it comes to processing information, interfacing with new technology, learning a lesson, studying, taking exams, filing taxes. All these different situations can create an interaction between the environment and the personnel involved in a specific task. And there's pretty good literature about what the different kind of spectrum of these perspectives can look like. So on the left here, we have the more process-oriented learner, right? Someone who uses technology specifically to complete tasks and doesn't really want to be too risky, doesn't want to break anything. And this person on the left, this represented person on the left, is more of a comprehensive information processor. Okay, so that's one kind of extreme. The other extreme is folks who just use technology for the sake of technology itself, who do not care if they break said technology as long as they get to learn something about it. And generally, this type of extreme cognitive style is a person who won't read the instruction manual, right? They'll just forego all of that nonsense and start selectively processing what they think they need, and then learn the rest by exploration. Now, just because the column on the left and the column on the right have discrete physical, proxy to each other, doesn't mean that a person who uses technology to complete tasks is necessarily a learn by process cognitive style. So these are very fluid. This is actually a spectrum, and you can lay anywhere in between any of these. So part of this exercise is a bit of self-reflection, some emotional intelligence and regulation. How are you going to approach a new task? How are you going to be present in a new environment? These are kind of things we're talking about. So I think it's worthwhile to take some time to look at how you perceive your own cognitive style based on the spectrum that we just discovered with these extremes on either side. And to get us going, I learn better from folks that introduce themselves to me and who I know a little bit about. So I actually created my own cognitive slider and filled out exactly where I am on this spectrum with these little gray markers. So again, circumstances matter, right? So I filled this out specifically thinking about how I interact with new technology. So when I interact with new technology, I'm real close to the middle when it comes to processing information, but I think I lean slightly toward the selective side. I definitely tinker, so I'm way closer to the tinkerer side than the processor side. I often have to go back and look at instruction manuals or more comprehensive literature. But when I don't have to, I save myself time. And when I don't save myself time. But I am super motivated by completing tasks. So I'm way more interested in technology as the means to an end rather than technology as the end in and of itself. And I've got pretty high risk tolerance and pretty high computer self-efficacy. So I'd usually pause and say, does anyone have any questions about this? But since this is a recording and a training, you can go ahead and adapt that to your class however you decide. Then I would hand out physical paper if I was in a class, or I'd share the file if I was on Zoom, and I'd say, please create your own slider specifically for when you interface with new technology, whether it's a new phone, a new computer, a new piece of software, a new, like a breadboard that you've never used before. And go ahead and mark either circle on the paper or move the little marker down here to where you find yourself on this scale, on this spectrum. And I'd give folks a few minutes to do that. And then I'd say, well, okay, so what would happen if instead of exploring your new phone or playing with a new software program, what if you were filing your taxes, right? What if you were trying to get through irs.gov to understand all the rules that you need to follow? What if you were studying for an exam? What if you were taking an exam? Does studying for an exam differ than taking an exam? And what does that mean? How can you study better so that you're in the same space, so you have a higher rate of success while you're actually taking the exam, right? The point of this slide is basically to remind us all that these cognitive styles are fluid. Not only do they potentially change over time, right? Me 10 years ago might have had a completely different profile than I just showed you. With new technology, interfacing with new technology, but the environment that I'm in is also going to really impact that. Just to drive it home, I show here an overview of the difference between my cognitive style when I'm preparing lecture versus playing with new technology. So I'm much, much more risk averse when I'm preparing lecture. I try to be very methodical, and I try so hard to be more comprehensive, but I think I was being really honest with myself that I'm trying to get straight to the point. It's something I'm working on, but I'm more process oriented, right? So what works really well in class for me, I take that information and I use it and integrate it into future lesson plans. Okay, so these slides are pertinent to that specific class I'm teaching. I would break them up into project teams and have them say what's similar on your cognitive style slider to your teammates and what's different. What does that mean about how you're going to speak to each other? What does that mean about how much of yourself you can bring to class? Is there anything that you can think of that would be more supportive to help you tackle some tasks that might be making you either hesitant or uncomfortable at this time? And really exploring what these cognitive styles mean in practice when you're talking to your teammates. And once that little break the ice part is over, just about who we are, right? Let's introduce ourselves and talk about ways we think and how we approach problem solving. Then I would say, all right, make a plan for how you're going to make progress on your project for the next 2 weeks. Write it down, preferably on that piece of paper with the cognitive slider that you filled out. But in Zoom, you could do breakout rooms as well. That would work too. All right, good times. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out.